YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back with one player that will break out for every single NFL team. Can't wait to do this like we do every single year. Let's get started. Let's start with the AFC East teams for the Buffalo Bills. Give me Keon Coleman, second-year receiver from Florida State. Obviously, there was a lot of hype on him. Pretty solid rookie season. Some flashes. Needs to be a little more consistent, but he could be that in year two and break out, eventually become a legit ex-receiver at the Buffalo Bills. And you'll need him to be. And the way I see it, I think a lot of people see it, Coleman, obviously Shakir, their best receiver right now, a really solid slot receiver, and Josh Palmer. Those are the main three for the Buffalo Bills, and they can play alongside, with each other. Coleman is the X, Y for Shakir, Z for Josh Palmer. That's the way I view it. Obviously, Palmer could play the X if you need him to, but like we talked about Palmer, they added receivers, Elijah Moore as well, but there's no one to me that is going to take, the way I look at it, going to take snaps away from Coleman or targets away from Coleman, in my opinion. Last year, Mac Hollins, in terms of style of receiver, he kind of could be that guy, right? And he was pretty productive, more productive than, people thought he was going to be. Like we said, Palmer could play alongside Coleman. Elijah Moore's played most of his snaps in the slot. Curtis Samuel, a rotation guy, mainly plays the slot or the Z spot. Could see him in the backfield. Gadget plays as well. So it's good. It's a good sign for Keon Coleman, who has a lot of upside and has a chance to break out in a big way this year. Aiden Weingartner, a Buffalo Bills fan, kind of playing along with our ex-subscribers here, has two. Dalton Kincaid, a pretty good one, because we're still kind of waiting for him to break out, and we know he has the skill. And he says Cole Bishop, second-year safety out of Utah. I liked his Utah tape a lot. We didn't see him a ton this past year. Safety, the problem is they have a number of safeties, so who's going to play? It's kind of up for grabs. You could see a little bit of a rotation, but the good news for Bishop is it's not their strongest position, so if he takes a step up, he could take that spot and be a breakout player, so I do like those options there for Buffalo. The Dolphins, I'll go Chop Robinson, their second-year pass rusher from Penn State, and this is a little bit of a different one because he was already really solid his rookie season, so does he need to break out? Like, is he a guy he needs to step up? No, it's really not that, but I just think he's ready to explode. I liked him a lot in terms of being a draft prospect. I was really high on him. But the way people talk about it, people don't talk about Chop Robinson enough. His rookie season, he was really solid. All the talk is Jared Verse. Jared Verse is far and away better than any other edge rusher, and he was the best edge rusher, but Robinson wasn't that far behind, and I like to think he actually has a lot more upside than, for an example, a guy like Verse. So he's ready to explode. I would not be surprised if we're talking about him as maybe the best second-year edge rusher this year, and he has a bright future. He's ahead of schedule, so I'm waiting for him to explode and break out even more in his second season. Braylon Allen for the Jets, second-year running back, and we know we heard the talk. The Jets are going to split carries with these running backs. They're going to use multiple of them. Braylon Allen, technically the second running back behind Breece Hall, and I do think Breece Hall has more skill, but Aaron Glenn and this staff, they're going to like using multiple backs, but they're going to love the physicality of Braylon Allen and the upside that he has. He's only 21 years old, is one of the younger players in that 2024 draft. So, and Breece Hall maybe not super happy. There's been some trade rumors. Braylon Allen is going to get action. I thought he looked ahead of schedule when he did get carries this past year. So, they're gonna like to use him. They're gonna use him a bit, maybe more than you think. So I think he's gonna really break out and show that he's a solid back, or maybe their starting back of the long or even the near future. A very obvious one, you have to go Drake May for the New England Patriots, especially if I'm talking about the best breakout candidate for this year. Drake May has so much upside, got a better coaching staff in there. Josh McDaniels has actually worked fairly well with quarterbacks, obviously in his coaching career, so it's a good sign for him. They got the weapons in the offense line at least a little bit better, maybe more than a little bit better. And he's got all the talent in the world. He's got to put it together. So we expect him to take that next step. Do you think the schedules? You never really know how teams are going to be sometimes, but fairly on the easier side. So that kind of helps Drake May's case as well, or anybody on the Patriots if it ends up being the case. We had a fan play along, Ian. And other than Drake May, says Drake May, but I like this. Kind of gets outside the box a little bit. I'm pretty much forced to go with like the best breakout. Like who's going to break out the biggest way in a video like this, but when I ask for X subscribers to kind of play along, I like thinking outside the box. Layden Robinson, who is a young guard, and there's going to be a little bit of a competition. I think he mentions that, maybe it's uncertain if he's starting, but could end up getting in, or he could start, could end up getting in there. He had a little hype out of last year, got a little bit of experience under his belt, much better coaching staff in there. So, even though he struggled at times, but he has the traits, Vrabel guy, we've seen what this staff has done with, these types of players. So it's a pretty good one there, because it's a little bit, I think, up for grabs on that offensive line in general. Not every single spot. There's some spots that are pretty much set. A few of them that are set who's starting no matter what happens this preseason, this camp. So that's a pretty good one. I like thinking outside the box there for the Patriots, who are expected to take that big next step, and it starts with the potential star quarterback in Drake May. The Eagles had a lot of candidates here. I went with Jalix Hunt, second-year pass rusher, small school kid, had some flashes last year that caught my eye. He really did. And he is known as an upside guy, like freaky athleticism. Barely has been playing the position. He actually switched to that position, during his college career. So it shows he has the upside. He's learning from the best right now. He's on the best roster, the best team. And I know they added other edge rushers or guys that can play that role. They lose Josh Sweat, though, and they're going to rotate those guys. I don't know if Hunt's going to start. I'm not necessarily saying that here, but he's going to play, and I just love the flashes that I saw. To me, he was ahead of schedule. I know it might be hard to say that because we didn't see a ton of him, but to me, for a raw, high upside, long-term guy, I thought he was ahead of schedule. But, man, you can go like Akili Ringo here. You can go, there's going to be a guard battle, Steen and Green. Green could revive his career. Getting that trade from the Texans. I think the Eagles think at least somewhat highly of him with that trade. So the Eagles had, and there's more than that as well, but they had some good options. I felt like going with this Hunt one because, again, I thought he, as an upside raw prospect, he was a little bit ahead of schedule. He caught my eye last year. This is an easy one for me. Commanders, I'm going with Brandon Coleman. He was a rookie last year. I graded him as a guard because in his career at TCU, he played tackle and guard. What I saw on tape, I'm like, I think he has a little more upside as a guard. So that's where I graded him. Commanders took him as a tackle. I did like the fit. I thought he looked fairly decent, a little inconsistent, but they go and trade for Laramie Tunsil, and they draft Josh Connerly. The tackle's looking a lot better. And boom, Coleman goes to where I think he belongs at that guard position. And the starting job's not guaranteed to be his. I think it's likely it's going to be his, but he has to perform in the offseason here. And in preseason, obviously, but I really think, because he had some flashes at tackle too, I really think he could be a heck of a guard. And I feel like those tackles are going to perform well. So, Cosme, as long as he's out there, is going to play pretty well. Biotish was impressive. So this is like that piece. Like if he can end up being that solid guard that a lot of you out there think he could be, that offense line actually could be pretty special. Cowboys, give me Javonte Williams, their new running back they acquired in free agency. They could split. The Cowboys could split. I am a big Jaden Blue fan, but to me, Williams would be the starter. He's the guy that can handle that load, even though there would be a split. But when Javonte Williams was with the Broncos, there was times where he was like finally getting hot, and then they take him off for this guy, that guy. It's kind of Sean Payton's thing, right? I don't think even though the Cowboys will split, I think they're gonna, if he's feeling it, I think they're going to keep him in. I think we'll see him get most the snaps for the Dallas Cowboys. I think he could have the best year of his career so far. So I'll go with Javonte Williams breaking out for the Cowboys. You can use one of those pass rushers like Marshawn Nealon, I think is a pretty good option. Leafau, second-year linebacker. I think the Cowboys had some options there, but I do like Javonte Williams possibly having the best year of his career. For the Giants, give me second-year safety Tyler Nubin. He already played pretty well his rookie season. People don't talk about it at all. He did get injured, but when he was out there, 13 games, he played very well. So he's a guy, again, nobody really talking about him. People thought he was a good prospect. They didn't really expect him to be that solid right away, so I'd say he's another guy that's ahead of schedule. And now they add Javon Holland to the mix. I think that pairing is really solid. I think you can see them playing split safety a lot, but they're pretty interchangeable. If you want to have one up in the box, both can do it. If you want to, and the other one has to be in the back end, then they pair really well together. So that's going to bring even more out of Nubin as long as he's healthy. So he can kind of being more of a household name after this season. And we had a fan play along here, Riley. He says offense Theo Johnson was coming into his own before getting injured. Yeah, there could be a little bit of competition with tight ends, but Theo Johnson could be that guy. A lot of upside there, so that's a pretty good one. Defense, Deonte Banks should benefit from no longer having to go up against opposing teams' receiver one. Yeah, they add Paulson and Debo, so that's actually a really good point. And Banks looked really good his rookie year and then fell off last year. Different defensive coordinator, so kind of can get back on track. And he says could also see Tyler Newman becoming a star safety. Yeah, again, he's ahead of schedule. He's very instinctive. So, yeah, I went with Tyler Newman as well. Ravens, I'll go with offensive lineman Roger Rosengarten. Was already pretty damn solid. His rookie season was a little inconsistent, had some flashes. You know he has upside. The Ravens know how to develop these guys. They know how to pick them. They develop them. They know how to get the most out of them. So you know he's going to continue to improve. But, yeah, he has a chance to be really solid, like better than people think, even though I think people like him for the most part. But his only knock really coming out of Washington for that 2024 draft was, he could use a little more power, a little more strength. And after getting some experience under his belt, and now this is his second offseason in the Ravens program, offseason program, after that, having that experience, I think there's a decent shot that they're working towards that, and he can kind of complete his game. So he has a lot of upside. He has a chance to be very good, and I think we'll see him make that big step up this year for a really good football team. Bengals, give me Josh Newton, young corner from TCU. I like this one a lot because the Bengals do need someone to step up at corner opposite of Cam Taylor-Britt. I think Newton could be that guy, young guy with upside. But, man, I'm thinking of not his last year at TCU, but the year before when the team was overall better. He looked like a star. He looked like a future top pick or a first-round pick or maybe a little bit later in that. That's where TCU ran a lot more man coverage. Last year they ran a little bit more zone. He was still solid, wasn't as good. And typically zone is better for the NFL. But a couple things here. The Bengals get a new defensive coordinator, Al Golden. He could switch things up coming from Notre Dame, college to the NFL. But a lot of man coverage in his defense, and we saw when we did see Newton, he had some pretty good flashes in man coverage. Really solid press, really sticky in coverage. He can play zone. He has upside there. I'd imagine the Bengals mix it up. They need someone to step up, obviously. So I could see him stepping up and being a much better corner, breaking out, being a much better corner than people are expecting. I could definitely see one of those second-year defensive tackles for the Bengals. We're waiting on Miles Murphy, which I liked Murphy. He was a little raw prospect. He had an injury in there last year. He's behind some stud pass rushers. We'll see what happens with Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart. But Murphy could be a guy with the opportunity that breaks out as well. Steelers, give me Roman Wilson, a guy that I'm really excited to see what he has this year. I'm really excited to watch him. As long as they don't add, they still could, a slot receiver to kind of push him back on the depth chart. But Wilson's getting some hype. He was a really good slot receiver at Michigan. He's a guy that gets separation, gets open. Because of that quick to get open reading coverage, because of that, I could see a good connection with Aaron Rodgers. I could see him being very productive. So a guy I'm really excited about. I think he could be a long-time solid slot receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Browns, I'm going to go with Cedric Tillman, receiver. Few years in, obviously was a star at Tennessee, so he has that upside, and they need him to step up because they need a receiver to step up. They bypass drafting Travis Hunter. They move back. They get Mason Graham. So Tillman's got to be one of those top receivers on that team, and he's going to have a different quarterback thrown to him, so that can kind of elevate him even more. He had some games where last year I'm going, okay, he's coming. He's getting going here, so I'm expecting him to step up, break out, and the Browns definitely need him to, but I do like his upside, so let's see if he can hit some of that this year. The Lions, I got to go with second-year corner. Terrion Arnold was a first-round pick a year ago for a reason, and there was a debate. There was actually a debate, Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell, who is the better prospect, and during the year, Quinyon Mitchell blew him away. But I'll say, well, one, they're supposed to be even in talent, so Arnold has that upside. He can get there. Number two, I think Arnold's job was actually a lot tougher. The Lions ran a ton of man coverage. You know how hard it is for a rookie to step in against these NFL receivers and just shadow guys every single snap. Aaron Glenn, that's kind of was his only knock, was too much man coverage. He's out. Maybe the Lions realize that. They got to mix it up a little bit. That Arnold could benefit from that. And then you look at Arnold before his last year at Alabama, he wasn't on anyone's radar. Like, he wasn't really known as a good corner, but then he finally got going. He's even talked about that specifically. Like, I learned a lot of things. This is what I had to do. This is what I changed. My last year at Alabama, I got going. So he's only 1 year in. He was asked to, run an insane amount of man coverage, which is very, very difficult. One of the most difficult things, at least in my opinion, in all of football. So he's a guy that's only going to get better, and his job might actually get easier. So I'm looking forward to him, stepping up and being a very solid corner for the Detroit Lions for a long time. They had DJ Reed, who's a phenomenal corner as well. That could take some pressure off of Arnold. The Vikings, I'm going to go with Jeff Okudah. I think a little bit outside the box on this one. I thought about going Theo Jackson, who's maybe ready to step up as a safety, and this is a little bit bold just because there's a shot that Okudah doesn't even start, or get a ton of snaps. He's got to fight a little bit maybe to make the roster because the Vikings, they don't have the strongest cornerback room, but they actually have really good depth. They have a lot of options that will fight to start or fight to get playing time. The only guy that is absolutely locked in is Byron Murphy, but he also, he plays inside and outside. So when he's inside, you need another guy on the outside. But Okudah was a star prospect, right? Everyone thought elite prospect was supposed to be a sure thing, and it hasn't worked out. He's gotten some experience. He hasn't been a bad player, but getting that experience that he did, now going to Brian Flores' defense, the Vikings even built that defense up even more. Typically, so there's a lot of talent around him, and typically Brian Flores, gets a lot, out of players. And there's a guy that has talent, a lot of talent inside him, just waiting to break out. This is the opportunity here. So this was kind of a bold one, but a pretty good one at the same time. Jeff Okudah with the Vikings. For the Packers, I'll go Marshawn Lloyd, second-year running back from USC. We didn't get to see him. We saw 6 carries in, the Colts game, and it wasn't the greatest look, but, he dealt with an injury all year, so I think felt like everyone kind of forgot about him, but I was pretty high on him. I love this tape out of USC. The Packers loved him. The Packers really value running the football, and not just with Josh Jacobs. They want to pound the football, and Marshawn Lloyd is supposed to be a part of that. So as long as he's healthy, I think he's going to be a really solid back for them. It's not just going to be Jacobs. It's going to be a solid 1-2 punch for the Green Bay Packers. Chicago Bears, I have to go Caleb Williams. I feel like it's an obvious one. If I'm talking about best possible breakout, you got to go Caleb Williams. Last year, wasn't bad, wasn't great. I feel like, according to most people, he was a little underwhelming just because there was such high expectations on him. I could pretty much guarantee he's going to be better this year. He has to be better this year. The coaching staff, for starters, Ben Johnson should elevate the offense. The offensive lines should be much better. The weapons even look better. Caleb Williams, he was just a rookie last year, more experience. He is going to be better this year. He has the chance to break out and be a special player. So I got to go Caleb Williams. But we had 2 Bears fans from our ex-subscribers play along, and both of them said Rome Odunze, who's also a good one. When they drafted Luther Burden, you kind of wonder, does this take targets or snaps even away from anyone? It's a little tricky to figure out, who's playing the 90% plus snaps from the receivers because they all can't do it. And then Odunze, who's strong, a little underwhelming last year, but had flashes. But further we get in the offseason, a lot of hype about him. It's sounding like Ben Johnson really likes him, and he's a big part of the Bears and their future. So some good signs for Rome Odunze for this upcoming year. So that's a really good pick as well. Shea is the GOAT. Says, I think he and Caleb end up an elite duo like Burrow and Jamar. So that's high praise there. And King also said Rome Odunze. Texans, I'll go with Titus Howard, who, remember, was kind of a surprising first-round pick as an offensive tackle, and he had moments where he played well. He earned another contract, but overall, I think most people would say, yeah, he's pretty underwhelming. Nobody really talks about him. No one really has high expectations for him anymore, but during the season last year, he moved to guard, looked somewhat promising there where he has upside, should be easier of a task. They've added other offensive linemen around him, so I'm expecting him to play, not only play there, but start there, and he kind of can not only revive, but really get his career going and break out this season. And they need him to. They need that offense line to step up. Colts, give me Danny Dimes. As long as he starts, of course, it could be Anthony Richardson. I kind of been thinking it's going to be Daniel Jones, why they signed him, and then now Richardson dealing with another injury. So signs are pointing towards Daniel Jones being the guy, but I don't think he's even close to a great quarterback, but I do think he's better than what people think right now. He had a pretty decent season for the Giants a few years ago, made the playoffs, and then it was a little disastrous, but the Giants were disastrous. Players were not playing their best form of football for the Giants. They go elsewhere, they're playing much better, and that could be the case with Daniel Jones. On top of that, I think he's a perfect fit in Shane Steichen's offense. He seems to get a little more out of quarterbacks except for Anthony Richardson, but especially quarterbacks that are a little tougher, can move a little bit like Daniel Jones, and he's got he's got weapons. I mean, they got running backs, they got receivers, he's got weapons around him, and I think he's going to play better than he ever has in his NFL career so far, which he needs to. You know, it's not saying a ton if he does that, but I think he plays very well for the Colts, and they could be a playoff contender. Titans, I'll go Peter Skoronski, young guard from Northwestern, and he's been a little underwhelming so far. He hasn't been bad at all, but man, him coming out, everyone expected him to be a sure thing. It's a top-tier prospect. Even if he's moving from tackle to guard, this guy could be a Pro Bowler early on. Like, he's guaranteed to be really good, and he hasn't been that yet. But he did switch positions, and the Titans been a little bit of a mess on the offensive line and quarterback. Now they get a quarterback, Cam Ward, a leader at the quarterback position in Cam Ward. They complete the offensive line. They add Dan Moore right next to me. Dan Moore isn't the best tackle in the world, but he's decent. The Titans think highly of him. They're kind of completing that group. Latham was solid at left tackle last year, but they're going to move him in the correct spot, in the right, the right tackle spot. They had Zeitler, who's a very knowledgeable, experienced, solid guard. You're completing the group, which could elevate everybody. So I'm expecting Skoronski to take that big step up and be that very talented offensive lineman that we expected. Thought about going with their corner Brownlee as well. I liked him a lot out of Louisville. He was pretty impressive, I thought, last year. They're going to be asking a lot of him. We'll see what happens with Snead. He's dealing with an injury right now still. That's a little bit of a mess, but I think Brownlee could have a really good year as well, second-year player. Jags, give me Trevor Lawrence. It's got to happen. I think it does as long as he stays healthy, but I mean, for starters, we know he has the talent. At least I know he has the talent deep inside. He's got to be a little bit more consistent. He gets Liam Cohen, who's done a really good job with offenses in general, but specifically getting the most out of quarterbacks. That helps. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, he's got stars at the receiver position, so that makes his job a lot easier as well. Now's the time. As long as he's out there healthy, I think he performs very, very well. He should break out. And then BTJ Season says Trevor Lawrence, and then Stranger. They need a tight end to step up as well. He could be that guy. And then defense, Devin Lloyd and Tyson Campbell, which we saw a little bit of a couple years ago. Yeah, Devin Lloyd, I thought he'd be a lot better right now. He has the flashes. I still think he has that upside in him, and a little bit of a change. Complete change with the coaching staff, but especially defense. So, linebackers, that happens so often. Like, as soon as you just change the defensive coach, the scheme, all of a sudden linebackers figure it out, or the opposite. Really good ones just fall off the face of the earth. So Lloyd is that's a good one. That's another guy to watch as long as he gets the opportunity, to be the starter, which I think he will. Bucks, I'll go with Yaya Diaby, third-year player out of Louisville, was a high upside player coming out of Louisville. Freaky dude, but was kind of ahead of schedule his rookie year. Then last year kind of dealt with an injury going into it, played, expected a little bit more, but now he's got a lot more help on defense, but especially at the edge position, adding Hassan Reddick in there as well. But Diaby's got so much potential. He's a good football player. I really think he performs at a pretty high level this year. Falcons, you pretty much got to go Michael Penix Jr. So much upside. We didn't see a ton of him last year, but I think he really can make some noise. He has a lot of upside too, as long as he's healthy, because the arm talent that he has, there's not a long list of quarterbacks that have the arm strength that he has. It's pretty eye-popping at times, so he has the tools to be great. Just got to stay healthy, be out there, put it together, and he can do that. It's a very talented team around him, but I expect him to turn some heads this year and break out. Saints, give me Trevor Penning. Kool-Aid McKinstry, another really solid one as well, so Saints have a few here, but Trevor Penning has been very underwhelming. I think a lot of people might call him a bust. Just been underwhelming at the tackle position. He hasn't been awful, obviously, but he's going to move to guard. Remember, the Saints draft Calvin Banks. They have Taliesin Fuaga. It's a pretty good tackle duo, young tackle duo. They have Kellen Moore, did a good job with the Eagles. Remember, they get Mekhi Becton. He moved from tackle to guard, plays very well. Penning is going to try to revive his career, get his career going at that position, just by his play style. Physical, strong, mauler type guy. A little nasty. You feel like he's actually better suited for guard. So this could really work out here. So I'd expect him to play his best year of his young career so far and really feel like a fit at that guard position. Panthers, you got to go with Bryce Young. A little mini breakout at the end of last year, but I know some people are like, I want to see it all season. I want to see it when you're alive. You're in the playoff hunt. Or more, right? So not when the season's over. So, but he took a big step. You want to see him fully put it together under Dave Canales. I believe he could do that. So he's the guy that has to break out this year. And they made the weapon. The offensive line looked pretty good last year. The weapons are getting better. They had Ted McMillan, so they got a pretty good running game. So he has all the reason to break out. I sure hope and think he does it this year. Chiefs, I think it's a fairly obvious one. Jaden Hicks, young safety from Washington State. He's going to fill in for that Justin Reed role. So he's going to be that starting safety. I don't think he's going to be as good. It's unfair to expect him to be as good as Justin Reed right away. But he played a bit last year. He had a lot of flashes. He's going to make some big-time plays. He gets downhill, and he can hit. He could force some fumbles in there. And the Chiefs are so good at identifying defensive back, especially talent in the defensive backfield, but developing them as well. So got a pretty good feeling that Hicks is going to be a solid one. So I'm excited to watch him filling in for Justin, taking that Justin Reed role, who's now in New Orleans, this season and breaking out. Chargers, maybe a little bit of an outside the box one here, going Tyler Conklin, because he's been around for a bit. He's had solid seasons with Minnesota and New York with the Jets, obviously. So everyone already thinks he's a pretty decent tight end. Is he desperate for he needs to step up and break out? Not really, but I think he has in my opinion, I think he'll have the best year of his career. It's a perfect fit. I think it's a perfect spot for any tight end to kind of blossom a little bit more, or show even more of what you have, get the most. I think the Chargers get the most out of him. Greg Roman, offense. Justin Herbert is your quarterback. Teams are focused on the run game. Can open things up for the tight end, especially with the play action game as well. He's a pretty good route runner. He's pretty solid after the catch, really strong hands. So I think he's going to be a better tight end than what people think. So he's a guy that I'm excited to watch here. This kind of goes as long as they don't add another tight end. There's been some rumors, they could, trade for, it's probably unlikely, but there's been rumors about Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews at one point, but it's probably unlikely at this point. So this applies only if Conklin is the starter going into the year, and I truly believe he will be that guy. The Broncos, I'll go with second-year receiver Troy Franklin, who little underwhelming going into the year last year. We kind of heard that noise before the season started, like Troy Franklin looks a little underwhelming. Is he going to be able to get on the field? And he couldn't consistently get on the field, but he had some flashes. And then the playoff game, the playoff game was brutal. Nothing against the Broncos there. That they're a very young team. They're playing the Bills in Buffalo. But I got a point. Playoff game was brutal. Troy Franklin, right off the gate, was a bright spot. And maybe it kind of showed, all right, this is where he's trending, right? And then the Bo Nix connection, they were so good at Oregon, something's got to be there. Something's got to be there. Why I was very hesitant to do this is because, they don't have a ton of options. I thought Jonah Ellis maybe. He's kind of sneakily had 5 sacks last year, could break out even more this year. But why I'm a little hesitant with this is that, the Broncos don't have the sexiest receiver room in football, on paper, but outside of Cortland Sutton. But they're pretty deep. They got guys that can play, that can anytime could take reps, snaps, targets away from Franklin. But I also believe Sean Payton loves Pat Bryant. It's a Sean Payton guy. I think he's going to play, but you could use Franklin and Bryant at the same time. So I was a little hesitant with this one, but I explained there's multiple reasons why he could and maybe should break out. And then we have a Broncos fan, Fennec. He has Troy Franklin as well. And this is great because he puts hearing good things about him coming from camp. If he can rekindle some of that Oregon camp, I mentioned that as well. But I love the first part of that. Hearing good things about him from camp because, it's one thing that's pretty hard for me to do is all 32 teams, what's happening at everybody's camp, right now, this early. It's because you're not hearing that news a ton, and it's hard to focus at the same time, all 32. But so I love hearing that stuff. But kind of going backwards to what I already said, there was some doubt on Troy Franklin going into around draft time and going into the season last year. People were a little worried. Right? About this time last year, they were pretty worried. Is he not the guy? And that maybe extended in the preseason that maybe people thought he was going to be. But the fact that he's looking good right now, getting a little bit of hype, doesn't mean a ton, but that's a good sign. So, like the takes there from Fennec. Raiders, I'll go with Jackson Powers Johnson, second-year center from Oregon, and he was already solid last year. He's a guy that doesn't, another one of those guys that he's not a guy we're going, he needs to step up and break out. He's already really solid, but you didn't really hear outside of Vegas, you didn't really hear a ton about him. People were really talking about how solid he was, and I thought he was getting better and better as the year went on. Get a new staff. I feel like he for some reason fits this newer staff even more. I think we can see him make that jump this year where people not only will be talking about him more, but they might be going like, this is maybe one of the better young interior offensive linemen in football. Remember how quick it happened for like Creed Humphrey and some of those other, and Linderbaum, how quick it happened for those guys. I think we can see something like that for JPJ. He was a guy coming out of Oregon where it's like not the sexiest draft prospect in the world, but it's a pretty safe bet that he is going to be good. Like he's not going to be a bust. So I think we'll see a lot of that and start to hear his name a lot more this year. Rams, I'll go with receiver Jordan Winnington. Not a household name, not a big name. He had some flashes last year, and he had a little bit of hype actually going into the season. I mean, nobody thought he was going to be like, he had to be anything special right away, but there was a little bit of hype and there was a reason for it. And the Rams will use a rotation of receivers. Like they're one of those teams that you'll see 3 receivers out there at once, and you'll see several different receivers get some snaps. And Demarcus Robinson, who, he's not the best receiver in the world, but he was pretty good and he had some important plays for the Rams. And obviously he went to the 49ers. They add Devontae Adams, but they don't have Cooper Kupp anymore. They have Tutu Atwell. He's not super consistent, but Whittington's probably not going to start. Who knows? He could, but he's going to get some action. He's going to get his opportunities, and he's a sneaky guy that can kind of step up and be that Demarcus Robinson perhaps for the LA Rams. Seahawks, I'll go with second-year defensive tackle Byron Murphy, and he actually was pretty damn solid his rookie year. You don't hear anybody talk about that. He made a big impact for Seattle. I felt like when he was in there, he elevated that defense, especially the run defense. And I think people almost take, for some reason, the common take is that he was underwhelming. But he was a lot of people's, maybe not a lot of people, but was talked about even from me as the top defensive player in that draft class. So people maybe expected a little bit more, but he was a lot better than what the stats will show, a lot better. But I think based off this upcoming year, you will see a lot more from him, maybe more production where people will actually realize this is a ball player. I think he has the upside to become, I'm not going to say the best, that'd be very tough, but one of the better young defensive tackles in the game. He has that skill, he has that talent, he has that upside. So a guy that is better than people think, and he will really show it this year. Maybe the most obvious one in this entire video, Cardinals receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. He was an obvious elite receiver prospect in that draft class. So much upside, and with the high expectations he had, he was kind of considered a little underwhelming. I thought, to me, he was a little underwhelming, especially in the beginning half of the year. Didn't catch the ball consistently, kind of disappeared at times, but he had the flashes, especially in the red zone, and down the stretch of the season, I thought he got better, but he needs to, and I think he will break out in a big way this year. He has that upside. In a blink of an eye, like in matter of a few games this year, he could end up being talked about as a legit NFL receiver. It could happen at any given moment. So one of those guys I'm really excited to watch this year to see if he could take that next step, because he should. 49ers, I'll go with Renardo Green, second-year corner from Florida State, in line to start. You can go with multiple different defensive backs for the 49ers, actually. Malik Mustafa, who actually impressed already his rookie year. Jair Brown, the other safety. I think these guys will step up as well. Ricky Pearsall, as long as he's healthy, dealing with something right now. Renardo Green, a pretty good pick, though, because he's in line to start. They don't have the best depth at that position. They could still add somebody. We'll see. They could actually end up adding someone to start over Renardo Green. I don't know if that's the case. I think they'll add depth, but we'll see. But he looked pretty solid in his reps last year, and obviously Charvarius Ward left. He went to the Colts, but Green under Saleh and what he showed last year, what he showed at Florida State, he'd be a very solid corner opposite of Lenore. So really excited to watch him this year. A lot of young players the Niners have added recently, so as long as they're healthy, could be an exciting team. But that will wrap it up for this one. This one's always a lot of fun. Thanks everyone for playing along as well. Comment with your pick for your team or whatever team you want. We're going to roll out with more videos like this. All kinds of content on the channel. Please like, subscribe, to notifications on. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.